was all saved in the settings, and it seems to have just decided to ask for it to all be put back in again.
Okay. Perfect. So I guess we're live.
Yep, that's us.
Perfect. So first of all, Alex, thank you very much for being here. It's a great pleasure for us. So today we have a special guest in our geNEOusChats. This is Alex Tsomaia from the Ads Accelerator program. Alex, welcome to geNEOusChats.
Thanks you for having me. We're happy to be here.
So Alex, I think this is a very special chat. I can say it out loud. I'm proud to have you here, not only because of the vision that you guys had to create this course with Patrick Wind in terms of Facebook and omnichannel marketing, but also the kind of content that it has got me just very, very much engaged as a student. So I think we're having a very interesting sweet spot you've found here, and we're very happy to discuss this today and discover it with you.
Yeah, of course. Happy to answer anything.
Perfect.
So, Alex, could I, just for the people out there that might not know the Ads Accelerator course, would you just give us just this sort of elevator pitch? You know, what is it about? You know, what's the kind of key? You know, why would somebody take this?
Yes. So it's in a very summarized way, in a very straightforward way. What we do is we teach Facebook and Instagram ads for business owners and entrepreneurs, so they're able to sell their physical products or their digital products or their services. So,
okay.
So that's in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Usually when you ask somebody to explain something in a nutshell, you never get a nutshell, but that definitely was concise. So that's perfect. Great. Thank you for that. And just to go on from there, now there's, you know, there are courses like focused on this out there. You know, you could, if you Google it, you would get quite a few. But, you know, when you were starting this, what did you think? What was the rationale that you thought this is something we can do that people are not getting elsewhere? You know, what was it you thought you could, what unmet need did you see when you started?
Yes. So we started this quite some time ago already. And we noticed two things. First is there was no comprehensive Facebook and Instagram course. It was kind of new. So those who knew it is because they've been doing it for themselves. So the niche was not occupied yet. So it was, as we would say, I guess, deep blue ocean strategy. Yeah. So there was nobody positioned, and there was no course that somebody could say, hey, this is the best one. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I think it's something that still applies to a lot of different fields, and it's how the program is made. Because what we see a lot is not practical programs. So we do them and we are left like, yes. So it's out some time waste, and what is usually done is fill the program with tons of content, like hours and hours of content that is not sometimes useful. Most of the times it's like far from priority. Yes, so we always felt like that it was like a way to justify the pricing. Yes, it was justify, like, this is not a 3 days course, it's not a 10 days course, it's like 1 year, 2 years with us. Yes, so you're like, okay, then it makes sense to pay 3K, 5K, whatever for this program. Yes, so what we did is we did it like for ourselves, firstly, and for our friends, because we were in this entrepreneurial community, let's say, and these guys needed something, and they didn't want to spend too much time on it, doing the stuff. Yes, so the time was very important. They didn't care about 100 hours, 200 hours of program. What they wanted and needed is something fast, something that they could implement straight away. And they didn't want also complicated information. They didn't want to discuss digital marketing. Hey, let's talk about digital marketing. Let's talk about this concept. Let's philosophize a little bit. And I think like the right philosophy is really straightforward. Also, it's very productive. but there is too much discussion. There is too much explanation. Like for example, you don't need somebody to explain you the mechanics of a person walking for you to walk. Yes, and if we tell you, hey, walk a specific way, like this, and we show you, and you're gonna replicate this, and you don't have to be like a doctor's degree with a world authority to explain, hey, how this mechanics is happening. And we focus a lot on this practical stuff, basically.
Alex, go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that's exactly what we're talking about with you, Alejandra, because you're been doing the course, and that was exactly what you'd said about Absolutely. It. It was super practical.
Yeah, I'm quite picky with what I choose for my own learning, but I actually do it very often. I'm a lifelong learner forever, and I actually finished 2 courses last week, very different ones. One in sales management, another one in big data analytics. And I said, okay, what's my next challenge now? And I said, okay, we're gonna go with digital marketing, but in a different way. And what do I mean a different way? I've been working with different educational institutions for 7 years now. Neo has been existing for 4 years. I mean, we do marketing on a daily basis. I know the strategy. I'm very much involved in that. But I wanted something different, which was the very practical elements that I asked my team to do. And as a leader, and I've been discussing this a lot with Mark, if you want to empower your teams, you also need to be digging into the nitty-gritty so you can ask them things that you are also leading by example, right? So I started looking for, I need to say it out loud, very big names. And you made the cut because of the practicality of the content, basically. It was really straight to the point. It was snapshots. It was very well structured. And it wasn't just a long course with a lot of theory, very little practical information. And this is it, now pass the exam and good luck and see when can you actually apply this. No, it was something completely different. I had a very interesting conversation with you, Alex, at the beginning to really like understand, okay, I got my questions. Now, what about you guys? Is this really what I'm looking for? And me as an entrepreneur, but also specifically in the education industry, it's quite tricky to find a course that is very well matching with what I was looking for. And here we are. I'm very, very happy to have started it. It's a real pleasure to go through Patrick's content. The way he teaches is just fantastic. Again, we can talk a lot about it, but I'm very happy with what you guys have put together. And it's truly a different course. We can have a look at ways of embedding it in different schools courses, different university courses, or taking it completely separate. And both are absolutely valid. So big congrats to you, because this is just a great initiative you've undertaken.
Yeah, thank you a lot. And this is just the beginning for you also, because the most important part, of course, is not have a good time with the program, but get results. So that's the end goal, of course. But Absolutely. Yes, we're very happy that you like it.
That's interesting, Patrick, because Alex, because I love what you said about the, in the academic world, it's what we'd call padding. When you try to pad out a course to sort of, give it weightier content and stuff like that. And it's definitely something that is done. And it's really funny that it's that kind of top-down mentality that, from course creators and learning experience designers, they would say, well, to make this course seem more valid, we need to pack it with stuff, regardless of whether or not you need it, which really is quite archaic, and it seems that what you're doing is you're kind of flipping it, because why people seem to be coming to you is like, I've got this thing, I've got this product, this service, I need to get it out there. I just need to know how to do it, and it's that, let's just cut right to it. And the value of the course is in the results, exactly what you say. It's not in the length of the course, which itself is kind of meaningless. It's what you can get from it. So you've sort of flipped it round. And people coming in are driven by a need, right? I need to get this product or this service out there. I need to learn X and Y. And they can zoom straight in on it. And this is what I wanted to ask you is the other sort of difference with, you know, the I would say mainstream academic courses is they've got these big overarching units, you know, where they would pack it with theory. And, you know, what you're doing is you know, people that are doing your courses could actually say, well, I want to know a bit more about what's behind that. And they'll go off and do it themselves. You know, what is the psychology behind this or whatever. They can perfectly capable of finding out themselves. You're just dealing with the application part. But the content is really segmented. It's really like bite-sized, you know, not like these big, like unit 1 in an academic course, which is 30 hours long. Yours is really kind of niche focused on every single video. And what I wondered was, how did you decide the order of those? Because that's the difficult thing, you know. How did you, you know, if you're sitting down across a table from somebody explaining a process face to face, you can take visual cues and you can kind of figure out, okay, I need to tell them A before B. But when you're actually putting this online, how did you decide on the order of all this super segmented content?
Yes. So for us, it's kind of common sense, which is not very common sometimes.
Good answer.
So like we are really realistic about this. And we cannot, like, what usually happens is that a lot of programs, they teach you something, taking something else for granted. So really the only, like, it's very simple what we do. We do, okay, if we're gonna if you want you to go here to point from A to B, we just put ourselves into the head of somebody who has no idea about this. Yeah, you could call it like empathy also, I guess. So we're okay, you have to click here, and you have to click here, and you have to click here. But do you know why do you have to do this and this and this? How we explained it before? If not, then we put it like before. Yes. So this is something also we see a lot of missing, like in general, but we are very good at this. Not missing steps. Like if we explain you how to make a journey, like sometimes there is, okay, but I don't understand this. And usually when people say this is because there is like some missing part that they cannot connect. Okay. And we are just very good at understanding when this happens. Yes. So when we explain you from 1 to 10, we do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we don't skip like from 1 to 3, 3 to 6, you know. And for us, it's pretty natural thing to do. Yes, because also Patrick, when he created the content, actually, he was working for companies. So he was, it didn't start like a content, like a first like a program and then like a business. It was different. It was a business, and then he was like, okay, how do I pack this knowledge? Yes, but he was doing all these steps. He was meeting all the time with these guys, with these entrepreneurs, business owners. And also when you explain something to a person, if a person after an explanation is like, what? Then you know we haven't done your job right, because, well, very, very, very few people are not smart enough to learn something like that. It's not complicated. So 99.9% of the time, when somebody doesn't understand what you're telling, is because you're just not explaining the right way, or with the right rhythm, or you're just like this happens a lot. People explain for themselves, yes, but somebody who has been doing this for 10 years, there's a lot of things this person will take for granted. So you have to get your mindset into the other person and explain, like, it's really like communication. Yeah. So I don't know if I explained it properly.
Oh, perfectly. I mean, it's perfectly. It's like empathy, basically, that you put yourself in the position of the other person and think about what would I need to know and in what order would it make sense, which is what, you know, is the foundation of good teaching, really, if you want to put it that way. That's what good teachers do. So yeah, that perfectly answers the question. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the keys to your own success, is the fact that it came from someone, being Patrick in this occasion, creating content from what he was seeing on a daily basis with clients or with other entrepreneurs, and he really found that missing those missing elements in the day-to-day operations that maybe it's different. Everyone has different objectives. Some really want to scale their business. Some others just want to be able to better communicate with their agencies. Some others want to just learn, or some others just something out of curiosity. But in reality, no matter how advanced or beginner you are, what's your actual interest on this course, it really it does the job. So I think it's also very interesting to see that you've gone like the extra mile in not only making it right from an academic perspective, in having the contents really well explained, but also you're having, and this is one of the things I need to confess, Alex, it's one of the things I really enjoy the most, and what got me in is you're having weekly Zooms, live Zooms, even though the program is asynchronous and you can advance at your own pace, you're complementing that with live Zooms with someone that is extremely well prepared. And that's how you're meeting the community as well. So you're not only working on the content and bringing those skills that people need, but you're also building that community for those people. So it's fantastic, because it's not the case of all online courses. And I can really tell you that I've had very bad previous experiences, and this one is the opposite.
Yeah. So here we have to think, of course, let me find the right word. Patrick's generosity, I guess, because I'm the CEO, but he's the owner, and ultimately it's his decision to dedicate so much of the margin to offer all this kind of support. Yes, and he also, our mentality is always over-deliver. So you enter expecting something already professional, but then you get all this kind of support that we know that it's not common. So that's when, yeah, you get the happy plans.
No, it's really nice. And whenever you're not even expecting it, you guys come up with, hey, here's a new content for you. I'm like, wait, what? More? Amazing. For some people, this is just not the norm again. And I think you're leading the way in that. And it's something that is going to make you stay in the market and lead it very soon.
We hope so.
Yeah, I'd like to build on the Zoom thing there, because one of the first things I noticed when I was in poking around the course, I thought there's no like test or assessment in here, which is usually built into courses. But in saying that, a lot of the courses you'll do, I mean, what is the assessment? Sometimes it's like multiple choice, and then it just says, sorry, you're wrong. And you're like, okay, so I've got to go back and figure out myself where I was wrong. And it's just kind of, it's not formative assessment. It doesn't help you to develop. It's just this gatekeeper thing, almost for administrative convenience. It doesn't really help you learn. Whereas you guys seem to have just said, okay, we don't need any of that in there, because the result, if it's a practical course, if you're not getting it right, it's not going to work. You can see it immediately, But was the Zoom thing, was that the intention? I mean, I guess obviously community building, but was the intention also to kind of deal with those things that came up? Because, between kind of assessment and the sort of feedback you get at the end of the course, there's that bit in the middle where it's like, how will we really know if, people are having issues with certain bits of the content, or certain connections, or things that are maybe not explained as well as we hoped? Or is that why the Zoom exists, to fill that gap?
Yeah. So actually, the Zoom is popular, but I'd say it's like 10% of the whole support, because the main channel that is being used all the time is just Facebook posts. Yes. So the reason why we don't do this test, because we just find them useless. Some people who are very used to academic learning, they kind of miss this thing. But one of the things we have, and we did this with Alejandra, is something we call welcome calls. And it's not really a welcome call. It's different. I'd like also to call it like a strategic call, but we decided to leave it for now at welcome. And it's really, we tell you there what to do and what not to do in a very summarized way, 15 minutes to 30 minutes maximum. And these calls are to make sure you're not gonna go through the program like a Lord of the Rings marathons, like 20 hours in a row, boom, or even watch 3 hours in a row, or even watch 1 hour one hour in a row. Like we have this in content, we tell it in one of the videos, but we also push it through calls because it's one of the most important elements. Like it's very simple call, it's very easy to explain, but it's something people have a hard time doing just because of the mindset it requires, because it's a different shift. So usually what happens, like I always explain, like the wrong way is you watch everything and then you're like, okay, let's start doing something because I feel ready. Or some people they don't feel ready even after a month or 2 months just watching content. And I always love to explain, well, give an example of a car. So you can spend 20, 30 years watching how other people drive, but once you're in a car for the first time, it doesn't help you. Like you're lost. Like even if you did like 1 year of theoretical preparation, like once you have to manage this machine, you're just overwhelmed of all the stuff you have to do. Yes, and sometimes you feel like a stupid because there are like some not very smart people driving, and like you're smart, but you cannot do this, yeah, and you're surprised, but it's not really your fault. It's just how our biology works, how our body works, how our brain works. So what we tell instead is, I call it make as much mistake as possible, as fast as possible, and as cheap as possible. Like cheap is very important. And here, cheap would be like if you drive a car, well, go to a terrain where there's just nobody in a very long area, yes, and just take the car and start doing stuff. Yeah, just engage, and I can almost guarantee, like in less than a day, you can already drive, and then you just have to put a little bit of well, you can make it real, like, okay, now go in a straight line, now turn this. So in terms of the program, is something like, okay, watch 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, no more. Okay, when you watch that, stop, pause, implement, like create already what we were explaining here. Okay, if you cannot do this because you didn't understand something, because you understood but it's not clear how to apply it for your specific case, or you understood, you applied, but you don't know how to read data you get from running a campaign for a week, that's when you use the support. Like that's the only reason really for the support to exist, because if you haven't got to that point, it's absolutely useless. Like that's why all these theoretical exams are useless most of the time, because they don't prepare you for the real thing. And that's the problem, I think, with a lot of business and marketing schools, because you prepare a lot on theory, and once you're out in the real world, you're like, okay, this is not what I expected. And it's like a shock. And then, lucky if you didn't have to take a loan on this stuff. No, it's really,
yeah, that's very much the case. And I think in my personal case, it's really a big difference, because you're also learning from the examples that each of the other classmates, if I can call it that way, but there's no class as such because it's asynchronous, but every other participant is actually sharing their own struggles, success, etc. And I like very much that the facilitator in there as well, instead of just answering all the questions and having like a descendant information, same in the Zoom and in the Facebook, it's you can also let the community reply and you guys validate it. If you find something that is not correct, you'll say it, but you also are playing the game of having other participants also share their knowledge, and that reinforces learning as well. So it's very clever.
Yeah, so it's unfortunately it's not something most of the people do, because it's uncomfortable, and a lot of people they want to avoid as much as possible being mistaken, and they don't take very good that somebody else might see their mistake, or that they're not yet perfect. Yeah, so that's a huge stop. But those who do this exercise, there is just no ceiling to what you can do, because it's very simple. Like let's say you run, you do this thing. So you basically try to answer every question that's in the group, and what's in the group is usually problems. So it's not like easy questions. There are no easy questions. That's why people pose them. So we have technical problems, we have problems of how to of application and stuff. So if you do an exercise and you try to answer, let's say 100 questions, different questions, yes, and you see, okay, this question is still hard for me, and then you try to master it, and you master it by asking more questions, yes. So what happens is that in the end, you know, like almost every problem that you can encounter in terms of Facebook ads and Instagram ads, but it's really like almost as the digital marketing is like the concept of prospecting, retargeting, branding is the same on any platform. Yes, so you also get this, and you reach a point where you well, you're able to answer anything in the group, and if you're able to answer everything in a support group where people only post questions, imagine how easy it's gonna be when you have just one client, 5 clients, and these problems that do not occur like all the time. Yeah, so it gives you also a lot of confidence, a lot of knowledge, and the dynamic also changes. So how you speak with the client, how you speak with the person, because well, a person can be an owner of a very successful barbershop, but once we're talking about Facebook ads, there is nothing that this person can say that it will take you like by surprise, and this is very important.
Yeah. Do you think, you know, with the questions you get, I mean, because I'm thinking about the content, the sort of genius behind the very micro-segmented content is also that it's very easy to change a 5-minute video rather than a 2.5-hour video, you know, if you need to update the content and stuff. So I'm wondering about, with this sort of loop here, you've got people going through the courses, you know, and then, as you say, trying to apply it experientially, getting to the point where it's like, okay, I can't do this because of X and Y, posing the question, coming together and getting the answer. How often does that feed back into updating content? I mean, I'm sure there's updating content for changes, technologically speaking, or changes in policies in some of the platforms and stuff like that. But in terms of, you know, using that, the feedback or the insights generated by the questions, how often do you have to feed that back into regenerating or adapting content?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's not just that it's easy to update, it's also easy to record, because you don't have to prepare a 1-hour speech. So it's like it really facilitates your life to do content. Now the updates, there are different kind of updates. There is new tools, old tools. So the old ones are just useless, yes. And then there's the interface. So interface really kind of requires every 3 months, which is a very big pain in the ass, if I'm allowed to say so, because you just cannot keep up with the interface updates of Facebook. It just happens 2 times, 3 times, even 4 times per year sometimes. So, well, in this case, what we do is we just reset yearly, on a yearly basis, more or less, the interface. But it's still, Facebook allows you to choose all the interfaces, but it's not very practical, because you get these, well, new clients get this shock because they start watching sometimes the content, and not everybody has the same interface. Not everybody, because Facebook decides like when you can use the newest one, for example. And sometimes we have clients say, but this is not exactly how I see it. Yes, and we of course explain. We have video where we show like how to revert or how to upgrade and stuff. But we in any case, we want to, it's preferable to avoid this shock, because Facebook is very intimidating in the beginning because of all this information. Yes, so interface, yes, we discussed that. Then there is the old tools and new tools. This is something that happens much less frequently than most people think. So most people think, they hear somewhere, hey, I hear that Facebook is changing all the time. So, but I don't have time to be like always upgrading, always learning, and so on. And it's really not like that. So for example, in last year, we have like 2 or 3 big things. And 2 of them are very easy to explain. Like it's just one new tool, one tool that doesn't work anymore, or one, it was like a 20% text rule. Okay, that's removed. And then there's this big change right now happening of iOS 14, which is a big thing. It's a big thing, but it's one big thing. And there was no such a big thing in Facebook history yet. So it's much more easy to keep updated than what people might think, actually. It doesn't require a lot of time. You just have to know what to remove. And yeah, like usually clients don't have don't have to tell us because we are still running our own clients' accounts. It's not like we are 100% professors. It's more like we live making offering digital marketing services to our clients, and the program is something like an extra for us, even for Patrick. Like it's there, it makes money for us, and we keep it going. But it's the profession that that keeps the ball running. It's not the information we have here. It's not otherwise. So when there is a big change coming, we just know it like 3-4 months in advance, and yeah, we're prepared for that usually.
But Alex, that's a true game changer, because again, when I was researching, like doing my own research to find this kind of courses, the big majority of them, the last update was either in 2019 or 2018. So that's 3 years from now. I mean, the platform has massively changed, and they were not able to keep up with the technology as such. And how can you teach me something related to a tool that is, whenever you recorded it was looking one way, and 2 years after I get to the tool, I try accessing whatever you're showing me in your program, and guess what? That function has disappeared. Of course, it can happen in some cases, but with your model, you're limiting risks of that happening. While with like traditional universities having those courses, it's making it way more complicated. And you added the iOS 14 changes in March 2021. I mean, that's 2 months ago. You're very much into making sure that everything is up to date. And unfortunately, in education, that's not the norm for content creation. So that's really, really, really important, especially for practical programs.
Yeah, so a regulation is it's a very big thing. So you cannot do, like, it's not even sometimes the professor's fault, because they just teach what they have been commanded to teach. Like they cannot choose the content.
Yeah.
So I'm very sure that there are a lot of people who would love to do their own stuff or explain in their own way, but they have to meet a lot of deadlines. They have to meet a lot of like even their students' notes has to be like very specific, and if it's below that, then you're you're screwed up. So they're gonna try to understand what's happening there. So you'll be like watched and observed. So they're very controlled and constrained, but what they can do. And what I remember when I was in university, the best professors, what they try to do is just prepare us for the exams. So that was it. So they explained everything on how to make this to pass this exam, because they understood the rest of the stuff was kind of useless. Yes, and so it's like you just have to beat the system, which is a different goal from actually learning something useful. So it's a different game.
Yeah, this is the great tragedy, isn't it? I mean, I think a lot of people listening to this will definitely recognize that. You know, it's not. It is changing, but that's still the mainstream approach, and that was definitely my experience as well. And you know what you're saying about, I mean, Alejandro, you're talking about updating things almost in real time. You know, just it's straight into the course. When I did my master's, I did it online, and my favorite part of that was when we were doing the theories around motivation. I really got into it. I really quite liked it. And a lot of the most interesting stuff in the motivation field has happened kind of post 2011, but the material ended in 2005. You know, the material we were given, everything, and they hadn't updated it, you know, and so it's like 9 years later, and it's like a lot has happened. You know, but you've just got to go out and find it yourself, which is okay. But then you think, well, why am I doing this course then? You know, and a lot of it is just pointless. So, you know, I think a lot of people will relate to that and are probably listening to this and thinking this is the way education should be. And I wonder, you know, what's next for you guys? I mean, because are you going to sort of, are you going to add another sort of stream or suite of courses? Are you going to broaden and do a kind of, you know, for example, I notice in the content you talk about things like the AIDA model. You actually mention it, but you don't go into like the behavioral psychology underneath it, of course, because that's not what you do. Have you ever thought you would do a kind of adjacent course that's like, if you want to go deeper, if you want to know more, here's all this stuff separately, or are you just going to keep adding just the super practical stuff? You know, what's the plan?
So if we thought that there is something we can add to Facebook and Instagram, we would already have done it. So we have to discuss about, okay, what else can we do for our clients? And well, what else can we do? We can do Omnichannel. That's why we have Omnichannel, which then the next step would be upgrading the Omnichannel until it has as accelerated level quantity and quality, because right now it's not so big, it doesn't go so deep, it just goes into what we think is enough for this moment. And what we think, like for example, nowadays Facebook it's the most strong platform in terms of cost per lead, cost per purchase. So for us, it doesn't make sense also for various reasons to not focus too strong on Google Ads, too strong on YouTube Ads and rest of the platforms. First, because there are not so many businesses that get much better results there. Yes, but what happens is that when something is very cheap, people get on board because they hear and hey, Facebook is working. So, and this is Google. Let's say this is Google, which is more expensive. Okay, and then people get here, they hear, and then you get very similar cost per lead or cost per purchase. Yes, so this is right now here. So Facebook is still cheaper, and this moment hasn't arrived. But what will happen in the next years is that they will get like on a more or less similar level, like Facebook ads, Facebook, Instagram ads, Google ads, YouTube ads, TikTok, Snapchat, Taboola, all this stuff. So it will be like more of an omnichannel approach. Like, find, okay, which of these works better for your specific case. So that's that's what we will focus on the next years. But it's like we're not there yet. We don't see it on our clients. We don't see it with our customers in the program. But when we see it happening, we also will be ready to add more content to all these different things. And also it's also a positioning thing, because if we make the change too fast and we focus, let's say, too much on Google right now or too much on YouTube, what is very hard for people like us in comparison with universities is to gain the authority and the trust in other fields. So this is something that universities do, some do well, some they exploit all this authority, just doing cheaper stuff so you can get more margin. But in our case, it's not so easy, because if everybody knows us for 7 years, hey, these are the Facebook and Instagram ads guys. So when they need Google ads or YouTube ads, they're not going to think about it a similar way if they find somebody else. Yes. So yeah, this is also one of the reasons we cannot change some stuff and teach some other stuff, because people think, okay, but these are these guys, why are they offering this other thing right now? So if they don't know us like our clients do, they will think that we're just opportunistics in the bad sense of the way, and it doesn't help. So we have to focus where we see like a green light, I call it. So if you do stuff and you see like, hey, everything is going right, the numbers are okay, we're getting clients, the clients are making money, we're making money, green light. If we start doing something else and it's too hard, it's just red light. Okay, it's not the right way for now, and we just leave it be.
Alex, what you're mentioning is very much the result of the niche segmentation you've actually decided at the beginning, and I think it's extremely clever. I do have a question for you in terms of how you're also working with education institutions. Can you tell us a bit more about that, so that our audience can also get inspired, and maybe you can become a part of some other content out there?
Yeah, we'll be more than happy to do that, because it's been I think 2 years already that we haven't gone to a university. Patrick was the person who was doing that all the time, but yeah, he decided to focus on just more profitable things for now. But yeah, we'll be more than happy to open again this door for universities.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, it's interesting that universities would, it's smart to work with you because they don't have the structures to update like this. It's really difficult unless it's the very modern progressive universities that they have that kind of very permeable wall between the real world and academia, which most do not. So it does make sense, because if they don't work with you, I mean, it's certainly, you guys are part of the emerging trend that is basically kind of going around university. People are coming out of school and they're like, this is what I want to do. I really like, I like marketing. I like the creativity behind it, but I just need to know the practicality of how to get the message out. And they look at university and say, okay, that's 3-4 years with all of this theory and stuff like that, that really what you guys are doing is like, no, look, here's exactly what you need to do to get straight to it. And actually, in my opinion, the theory that people can learn after that is going to be much more solid, because if I'm taking what you're offering and I'm applying it straight away, and then later on, after doing this several times, seeing the results, I read about the theory behind that. Why are people reacting to this advert? Why is this working? And I read the theory, it's going to be so much more strongly acquired for me, because I've seen it and I've done it. And then I'm like, that's why that works, rather than day one professor saying, here is this theory. You've never been in the real world. You don't really know how it works, but here's what this author said and that author, and it's totally abstract. I mean, you can see why people are going direct to your approach, and that could definitely be a threat. But if universities are smart, they would work with you and say, hey, we still think the theory stuff's important, and we still think that the weight of a degree means something, but we also accept that we can't stay up to date with this constant change in the market. So why don't we work together? It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, but it's not an easy thing to do, actually. And that's why it's not being implemented like in a very worldwide yet. And it's the trust in who is doing this.
Yeah.
Because if you're a very reputable university, well, you have to trust that this guy is the guy. Like, this is the right person, and this person is extremely updated to what has to be done. And that's why I think the MBAs are so expensive, because they bring just people who are just like really doing the work, and then just take some time out their agenda to show it. Yes. So that's one thing. And also, what I want to comment on that is that, so what is being done too much and too often is, so let's say I'm doing something, I'm doing some activity, I'm building a business, and the business is going well. So there comes, like, let's say a purely academic person and tries to copy what I do, but on a paper. So it's an interpretation of what I'm doing right. Yes, and then and I haven't done anything. I just follow common sense. I just follow my ambition, and I just do the things that feels right for the situation. Yes, so I'm just using my brain power. And what happens then? And this academic person teaches another the theoretical interpretation of what I'm doing. Yes, and on like at the time that this person is teaching that, I'm maybe a few years like I went and I'm doing a different thing, and I'm at a different point of time. And this stuff that I was doing, like when this happened, well, it's not relevant anymore because the market changed a lot. Yes. So what I think, it has to be like a different. It's not like we have to focus much more not on copying and try to explain theoretically what's happening, but engage people into doing the same thing. Like engage straight away as fast as possible. And I think I heard that some German universities, they were doing something like that, like go into internship. Like the best way to learning would be like a person goes to university and they throw the person into an internship straight away. Like, hey, boom,
yeah,
you're there. Yes. And the guys who contract these people just have to be very patient. Like some of the money has to be paid to the company for being patient and for teaching much of the stuff, because this requires time, somebody else. and then there will be like a professor just checking, like, how did it go? Like, what did you do? Like, how, what are your questions? Yes, but you ask questions once they occur on a specific moment. Yes, and then you work out the solution kind of together. And it has to be like, it's, well, I call it live thinking, because it's not something like static. You really have to engage, so it's not like an easy thing to do. It's not something you can memorize. You have to analyze and help on this specific case. Like that I think will be the deal thing to do.
But I think there's also an alternative that has happened because of the health crisis around the world, and is that some of the universities were really not prepared to teach online, and a big chunk of them were actually asking their students to go on Udemy, Coursera, or this kind of platforms to actually learn few of the concepts that they would not be able to take online. So one thing is the platform, and another thing is content. And in terms of platform, you guys have an amazing platform. I think that's a great way to.
Thanks to Kajabi. It's not ours, but yeah, it's a great place to be.
But you made the comment that there's some people who are not even aware about Kajabi, right? So I think this is really great. But there's also, in terms of content, many of those universities have their professors for a while teaching the same kind of content, and they're sticking to the theory applied in some case studies or stuff like that, but not actually touching on the tool as such. So I think it's a great complement still to bring a insight. I mean, if I was the campus director of a business school, trust me, I'll bring you guys inside my curriculum to make sure that I'm bringing to my students the very last updates on the market. And I'll complement that with a digital portfolio that requires them to undertake the Facebook blueprint exam or certification, I mean. And that would be how I personally would close that digital marketing module. I have my traditional professor doing whatever he has been doing until now, but I'll complement it with something very hands-on, as you guys are doing, and finalize that learning by, okay, here's my badge, so that tomorrow, whenever those students enter the job market, they actually have something extremely practical. Say, okay, I know what this looks like. And that's already they are one step ahead other potential candidates for a very first job, which is in any case difficult also to access. So I think this is something that if some higher education institutions, and even at a K-12 level, I can also see the very last years hopping on that wave, if they are smart enough to not compete but actually integrate some of your content. I think it's a great alternative for you as well.
Yeah, sure. We're happy to do these collaborations.
Yeah, I agree that the high school students are, I mean, completely capable of this kind of stuff as well. I mean,
absolutely.
In particular types of high school that are really focusing on self-directed learning, these guys are out there doing 3D modeling and printing and geometric models and mathematical models and stuff. I mean, and as you said, you said right at the beginning, you said this stuff it's not like it's over complex. It's just a skill to be learned. In high school they could perfectly do it, and it's this mentality of like, oh, they're too young. Is just it's outdated. 16-year-olds these days are not like 16-year-olds when I went to school. It's completely different. You see the difference, and it seems to me it's like almost like universities don't want to like let go. And what I would suggest that the best way to do it is, universities still have a role to play in bringing all the elements together, managing the learning experience, being the name behind it, certifying the quality, and being the conductor of the orchestra. But where you don't do things well, where your core skills are not, outsource. Bring in, collaborate. We all know, I mean, people say experience is the best teacher, but really it's structured experience is the best teacher. It's being supported to reflect on your experience. So The universities can still be there to say, hey, you've gone out, you've done this project in this company. Let's get together now and work through why this all worked and what was beneath it. What have you learned? Let's kind of get the thinking out. You know, universities have an important role to play, but they just can't be all things to all people. And it's just a case of letting go and saying, look, we can work with all these people, and we don't have to make you fit into our box. We don't have to make you go into all this box ticking assessment, because that is not what you do. We'll take care of that. When they come back in, we'll figure that out. You know, it works perfectly. I mean, I can see it, the structure in my head working, and it would be such a winner as well, because what students always say at the end of university, you know, I've taught university for years, and the amount of times I've had to apologize for what I'm teaching and say, guys, I'm really sorry, but this is in the exam, you know, this is not how I would like to do it. I've tried to make it as creative and fun as I can, you know, even sneak it in subtly, and like before you know it, oh, surprise, you've learned it, all the techniques in the book. But in the end, we shouldn't have to do that, you know, and we shouldn't have students coming to the end of a degree saying, you know, yeah, now the real world begins. The real world should have began when you walked in the door of the university. It's not a bubble. And people are perfectly capable of managing these diverse learning experiences. So I really hope that institutions open their doors more to people like you guys that are showing that real practical value and essentially giving people what they need.
Yeah, so the system is there, the structure is there, everything is in there. You just have to, you don't have to change too much. You don't have to build new buildings. So everything is already kind of in place, but it's really a change of mentality, not just from the universities, but also the parents and the students, both of them, mostly the parents also, that in the best of the cases, they pay for the children to do this stuff. Because, you know, it's like a cycle, and you kind of have to break the cycle, but on all the levels. Because let's say the parent learn in a specific way, yes, and like with all these notes and exams, and he just understands notes, and he's like a cognitive system, like a perfect cognitive system. Yeah, so an entrepreneurial mindset, just like a worker, like a pure employee mentality. So when she sees that, okay, there's a university doing something different, they don't have this note, they just throw people like straight away into the companies to work and stuff, you know. If this is something too advanced or something too revolutionary, they might think, okay, this is a waste of time. Like, okay, I don't want to put my kids in there, because this is not what helped me to be where I am. Because if I am right here, it's because that it's thanks to what I did with this guy. So it's not so bad, actually. Yes. So it's really like a job from on all the levels, And there are two options, or parents and universities make this mindset change, or something like, or it will just stagnate so badly until the problem is like really recognized. No, and then like it's okay. You change because you see that it's good already, or you change because there's a nail and you're sitting on it. Kind of like that.
But I think, Alex, we can leave this on a very positive and on a positive note, and with a lot of hope that, I mean, right now universities are teaching the current generation. They're preparing for what the Generation Z is really looking for, but they're almost doing it as it happens. And there's a whole new generation, Generation Alpha, which are the ones who are in primary right now. And they better prepare for those ones right now. And that generation, they have no idea what it is to have something on paper. That generation searches on YouTube. They don't go on a book. They need to start getting prepared for that generation. And if you guys are already taking that leap from your end, it's, I mean, again, going back to a message of hope, I think as an educational institution, if they can just leap some of the curve and get advanced by integrated some of your content, that might save them some years already into preparing for that upcoming generation in the way they are looking to study. And parents would also have to make the decision. And yeah, I think those are going to be, in my case, our kids in the future. And it's a challenge that we also need to integrate. Is we also need to let them the freedom to learn in their own ways. And as much as we want to control things, there's going to come a point where either we adapt or they're going to do something that we didn't even plan and it's out of our control. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think this is a good path for all of us to reflect on. And I want to thank you a lot for this very inspiring chat today, and seeing how we can actually make this mindset change, whether it's from top to bottom or the other way around, but really a systemic change for the sake of a better learning journey. Thank you very much, Alex. This has been fantastic. Mark, as usual, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. And thank you for, I learned a new expression from you. They only change because they're sitting on a nail. I love it. So thank you for that. That's a new one for my dictionary. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Alex.